would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I live and work, the Gundungurra land and people. I pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. I also want to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which you, our listeners, are joining us from today. I recognise the deep connection that First Nations people have to this land, their enduring culture, and their commitment to the preservation and care for their country. This land was never ceded, and it always was and always will be Aboriginal land. Hey there, and welcome to Beyond the Surface, the podcast where we explore the stories of people who have survived religious trauma, left high control or cult communities, and are deconstructing their faith. I'm your host, Sam, and each week I'll talk with individuals who have taken the brave step to start shifting their beliefs that might have once controlled and defined their lives. Join us as we dig into their experiences, the challenges they've faced, and the insights they've gained. Whether you're on a similar journey or you're just curious about these powerful stories, you're in the right place. This is Beyond the Surface. Welcome, T. Thanks for joining me.
Thanks for having me.
I'm excited about this conversation because I know very, very little about your story, and they're
Mhm.
sometimes my favorite conversations to have because I don't have any prior knowledge. I get to just hear your story firsthand in real time, and there's something about that I love. So, but for a bit of context for people, where in the world are you at the moment?
I am in the United States and I am in Southern Illinois. It's a place where no tourist would ever come. Chicago is 5 hours north of here.
Oh,
Uh, St. Louis is 2 hours northwest of here. We're sort of in the middle in a little town called Carbondale, which in the current state of US politics is the southernmost town where you can get trans affirming health care or reproductive health care. So we are
right.
this little town has become, isn't it shocking to think of that? This little town has become, we literally have trans family refugees here or people coming because within an hour east, west, and south of here, you cannot get what you need if your family is facing these kinds of issues. So that's Carbondale, Illinois is where I am.
Oh my goodness. I have been asking most people when I speak to someone in the US, like the equivalent of what a therapist would do in a welfare check, like, how are you doing over there? Because it's a bit of a shit storm.
Yeah, I have to I might get emotional immediately because it's like it's it's indescribable. I mean,
Yeah.
what's happening is it seems to be getting honestly worse.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just astounding that this has gone on and on and on and when so many times, hundreds of times we thought, oh, this will be the moment where it breaks, and it
Yeah.
never has broken. Um, so, I mean, forgive me the analogy, but um, a, we have sexual predators running our country, and
Mm.
predators being empowered in the micro level, the local level, and in the governmental level, everywhere. They feel like they can just do what they want to do because they
Yeah.
are
Yeah.
not afraid. So
Yeah.
it's terrible.
Yeah. And their lack of fear just creates the most immense level of fear in everybody else. It's terrifying. So, Um, before we derail the whole conversation on the state of the
Uh,
US, because I feel like it would be very, very easy to do.
yes, exactly.
I like to start these episodes with a very broad, vague question, which is, where does your story start?
Uh, where does it start? Well, let me say this. I'm writing a dissertation about um, it's sort of an autoethnographic performance studies approach to cults,
Yep.
which I can talk about a lot in the as we go along. And part of that is a little bit, I would say, digesting the hard part of this is sort of like, how did this happen to me? And, we'll get into that. But I was 23 years in a coercive group and I got out 5 years ago. So, I think there's several different stories here,
Yeah.
Maybe for the purposes of this, and I might go back further, but let me just say that for now, let's start this at age 29.
Hmm.
Um, and uh, and that was 1997 for me.
Yep.
And it was meeting a group of Sufis and actually in the town that I'm still in, because I'm still in the same town as they are, which is
Mm.
complicating and interesting. Um, and So that was 1997, and an essential part of that story is that a very close, trusted friend of mine invited me,
Mm.
and he had been a friend of mine when I lived in New York City in the early 90s. And relevant to your podcast, as I attended a seminary there,
Mm.
Union Theological Seminary, which in the States is really well known for actually being probably the most radical
Mm.
seminary. So very left-wing, political, feminist. And I mean, this is sort of, I have told the story before, so forgive me if I get a little sound bitey, but
It's okay.
one of the ways that I understand it is like I went to seminary and I was like this, I wrote this whole thing. I was writing about anti-hierarchy and about how, we're co-creators with God. And I was into all this like feminist, gay, liberation theology stuff and all this political stuff. And then 3 years later, I vowed obedience to a guy. I took a vow of obedience to a Sufi guru. So there was a big shift in there somehow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I mean, I think a lot of people have this. I mean, as therapists, we talk about, and in the cult recovery and religious trauma space, we go, people don't join cults, right?
Right,
They
exactly.
join groups, they join places of belonging. They like, what was it about this space? How did we go from essentially liberation theology, which it has immense beauty and community and
Mhm.
connection to it? To vowing obedience and devotion to this guru? How did we go
Right.
from one to the other?
Well, I think now that I'm 5 years out. I got out at the end of COVID. So now I feel like I'm far enough away to start really thinking about how that worked.
Mm.
Uh, Now it's interesting because the last I've had a lot of encounters with people who came from very religious Christian environments, and I was not going to be attracted to that kind of environment because I was raised with a feminist mom, and we were like intellectuals, and we were sort of not going to be that way, right? We sort of dissociated ourselves with my idea of like sort of in conservative Christians. And even when I went to seminary, I kind of tried to be a Christian at times, but then the whole thing didn't make sense to me. I was like, what
Yeah.
is this? Doesn't how what? Um, and I was thinking about being ordained. That didn't happen for lots of other reasons, which may come up later if they need to. And But this was different. Okay, so it matched my politics, and I really feel like Sufism was this sort of romanticized, not US American thing,
Mm.
and I feel like for those of us who might have identified sort of as being, I don't know, anti-racist or multicultural or international or these ways that I defined myself for complicated reasons, this idea that this was Sufi and sort of poetic and had this lineage
Mm.
of sheikhs, and we learned a different language, and all of that felt to me cool theologically and in practice. But then this group of people it had kind of a hippie vibe. The sheikh had long hair, played an acoustic guitar, of course, now I sort of see this everywhere in cultic environments. I'm like, oh, this is, but at the time I was like,
Yeah.
wow, wow, they're spiritual. They get up early and do practices and meditation and I mean, for me, maybe the biggest part was, I mean, well, they also like had an organic farm and
Mm.
it was sort of like put this into practice as a lifestyle, right? But maybe the main thing was that I came out as gay when I was a teenager, right? And my friend who invited me, these stories and getting someone to trust are so important. So I remember him calling me. He was visiting here from New York in Illinois. I was in the next state studying and when I was 29 and he said I said Sufis are they Muslims and
Mm.
speaking maybe a little bit xenophobically I was like well aren't they homophobic like
Mm.
aren't they these are just my assumptions at the time
Yeah.
and he's like no like and then he told me the story of how the reason he came to Carbondale was that a friend of his was dying with AIDS and that this group and the sheikh invited them and him and his friend who was dying and his mother to come and stay at their main house and gave them hospice care and nursed him until he died. And I
Mm.
was like, what?
Yeah.
Like that was such a compelling story to me. Like they embraced him and they took care of him and now, you know, of course, looking back, I see the power of a story like that and how I just trusted. And then you know, just the guru who interested me not at all. I mean, I wasn't looking for a teacher,
Mm.
but you know, I kind of came into this environment and I was like, this is really weird. Like what? But then I felt a thing and I felt and it was sort of beautiful and
Mm.
then there were these really formative moments. And one of them that I realized after getting out of the cult, which is that I've come to see how many of these groups there's like so often, not always, but so often there's the charismatic dude
Yeah.
guy, right? And then there's these women
Mm.
around him
Yeah.
that do his trust building
Mm.
and basically his communication skills because often they have shitty communication skills, right? So this his wife number one, because there were several,
Mm.
is this charismatic, gray-haired, crass, kind of rock and roll fashion icon woman who just walks around town being awesome. And literally, to me now, is the one who sort of proved it wasn't a cult by how she was,
Yeah.
right? And I had this conversation with her, and I've just actually written about this, like maybe the second or third time I came. She invited me out to her farmhouse. Now, I wish I could describe this scene. It's like American farmhouse, US American. I don't want to just say American. So US American farmhouse. Um, idyllic, like the rolling countryside and sort of maybe 100 years old farmhouse that's sort of like yellow and she's there with chickens and you know, I walk in there and she's like, hello, and everything's perfectly rustic, sort of 1950s, like it's just curated. And she is serving me tea and she looks at me really deeply. And, you know, Todd, that was my name at the time. Todd, you know, what's up? And she throws in some F words and I can see your face because it was like expertly choreographed, all of this. And
Mm.
I was like, I said to her, like, I don't think you know, I'm really interested in what's happening here, but I don't think I could do it because I said I feel too broken as a person. Like people here are so. I remember saying this to her. People here are so friendly and open and warm, and I said I don't think I can do it. Like I had a lot of childhood trauma and stuff, and I told her I'm like I have there's sexual abuse and all kinds of stuff, and I'm working it out, and I don't feel like I can. It's too beautiful. It's too nice. And then she took my hand and looked at me and refilled my tea or whatever, like the whole thing. And she said, "Sweetie, let me tell you my stories." And she sort of rolled out
Mm.
her trauma, right? And how and now look at me. And she's like, "Well, look at me now," you know.
I mean, exposing vulnerability to a cult leader is like a moth to a flame, essentially.
That's yes. And she is
Oh,
perfect at what she does, and she's still here doing it. Um, so I learned to trust her. So it was not it wasn't that I learned to trust the guru. I learned to trust the people who trusted the guru,
yeah.
you know. So a year later, I moved. I quit my PhD program because I was doing a PhD then. I quit, I moved, and I took a vow of obedience, and I got a new name, and I got a little ring that was sort of like the symbol of the marriage to the guru. And I gave everything. I gave everything. And that was,
How do you feel thinking about that now? Like that vow that was taken and just like giving up everything and moving to that space.
how do I feel about it? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I did it. I don't feel, when I think about it, I don't feel regretful. I, it was a con.
Mm,
Now I see it as a kind of a long con. But also at that point, the community had a feeling of openness.
mm,
It had it had a feeling, a joyful, exciting feeling to me, which kind of predictably became more strained over time.
mm.
Um,
I mean, I asked that question. I think there is a misconception from people who don't understand cult dynamics and leaving a cult and joining groups who end up being cults is that there is this misconception that, well, surely you must regret that. But I think there is like a gap in that knowledge of going, what I imagine it was meeting a need for you at the time. There was something in that space that was filling something deep inside that wasn't being filled anywhere else.
yes. Okay. I remember how I used to describe it to people.
Mm,
And what you're getting at is really good because I had I had sexual trauma.
mm,
I had and in the world in my 20s, especially becoming a young adult, I had the feeling in the world that I had no boundaries. Like I didn't feel boundaries. I
yeah.
didn't experience them. I found myself in a lot of dangerous situations. I found myself and I was aware that that part of myself seemed to be broken or
Mm,
like I just felt like all my windows were busted open, right? And I remember coming into this community and that feeling of structure
mm,
and how that free-floating anxiety for quite a while was gone.
yeah.
And they sort of set boundaries for me. And then I'm also like I can really throw myself into things. So I did. Like I made it my life.
Mm,
And that kind of totalist thing where, you know, they provide everything,
mm,
that soothed me
yeah.
for a while until it no longer did. But that
Mm,
feeling like I had my people and I had made my decision and I had made the promise, yes, that's what it gave me. And, you know, I I guess I needed that. I put quotes up, finger quotes, because I don't really believe that in a cosmic sense of like I needed to learn the lessons. Like a fuck that. I don't buy that anymore. But
yeah.
um, but yes, that provided a physical feeling of
Mm,
safety and comfort.
yeah.
Makes sense
And
to you?
that is such a common thing that I hear as well. That sense of belonging, the sense of community, but the sense of just structure, stability, security, all of those things that make us physically feel safe. It's,
Hmm.
there is in its simplest form, it's why children need boundaries because it makes them
Hmm.
feel safe. They might not like them, but they need them because
Hmm.
they create a sense of safety. And that's so much of what these groups provide um, initially. Um,
Yeah.
and so once that vow had been taken, what did life look like then?
Well, after a few months, well, it's a little central house. There was the farmland, but we lived in town in sort of a main house. And as the community grew, people lived in apartments and houses nearby. It's a small town, like
Mm,
30,000 people with a big university. And um, life was every morning, 5 o'clock a.m., a long morning program. It was meditation prayers and a chanting session, which in Arabic was called zikr. So it's sort of chanting the names of God. And it's very romantic, and
mm,
also chemically transformational, like
mm.
chanting like mm, this kind of rhythmic, which is something again I've written about and studied about how this changes you, and then seva, which is another word that just came up. I just rewatched which one? Oh, not Love Wins. I'm sorry, the Rajneesh one, the woman who died. Anyway, I can't remember their names.
That's
And
okay.
anyway, whatever they were, just you know, chanting and seva meaning volunteer work.
Mm,
That was the word for, selfless service. And
mm.
then within a short amount of time, we had bought. This is so typical what I'm telling you. We bought like, the cool cafe in town. So there's the cafe, the coffee shop, right?
Yeah.
It's so fucking just repeated everywhere. Okay, so I came to work there. I worked there for 20 years. I was at the vegetarian cafe, and then we opened other businesses. And Now this is the part that I think a lot of people find interesting, and also it's hard to explain, which is why it's nice to talk to other cult survivors. So, um, okay, so the vow that I took had a few parts.
Mm,
Um, Well, one of them was to be obedient, and the other was similar, which was to seek his counsel in matters of life importance.
mhm,
And this was done this vow was taken in front of a community. It was sort of a collective,
mhm.
accountability vow. And the third part was something that he called guarding your secrets. That's not the right word. Um, there was literally a thing about secrecy.
Mm,
And that, of course, felt also romantic, kind of like we're special and and so, so, and what I learned from especially the wives and is that really that means our job is to be as intimate with him as possible, right? It's sort of like close, intimate service. The most well documented that we've seen of this recently is the Keith Raniere stuff and just the way that people circle around him. And that was watching The Vow specifically has like, holy crap, it's identical what I went through. So my job in my heart that I took was to not just to be intimate, but to follow his guidance and to be his sort of in my early brain and heart about this was to be sort of as much like him as possible, to try to emulate him and to now here's where it gets tricky. I had never had a relationship. I hadn't had a relationship with a girl
mm.
since I was since I was 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And suddenly I remember thinking, I was not told you cannot be a gay person,
Mm,
but everything was divided by gender. There was a gender binary. It's like, well, here's what the women are like, and here's what the men are like. And that became more defined over time. And then there was no queerness or gayness anywhere in the group. Like it wasn't represented. Um, and that combined with my kind of chaotic relationship with my sexuality. I mean, I had never questioned that I was gay, but it felt I came in having it feeling chaotic, and then that this was sort of the solution to that. Rather quickly, well, I would say over a matter of year or two, I started to judge my, I started to confuse that chaos or with my gayness.
Yeah.
So, so a woman moves into the house, a young woman. And for years, I thought that this was a message from God. It turns out that that's not, it's more complicated than that. But during one of our morning sessions where I was chanting and I had this feeling like I should be with her.
Mm,
And there was something about it that also felt, compared to some of my relationships with men, felt somehow more calm or more grounded. Like these are the ways that I understood how, well, maybe this is just the right thing for me to be in relationship with her. Um, so again, this could be a book, the way that this transformation happened, but
yeah.
um, I decided, and it was a decision that I should be with her and that this would bring me closer to him,
Mm,
which was me keeping my promise. So hi, so this woman and I um, decided we would be together.
yeah.
And she knew that I had always been gay, and somehow we told ourselves that it would be different now. And we got married
Mm,
in 2000. So I was really, really in at
yeah.
that point.
How
Yeah.
do you feel about that decision now? Like, and how, I mean, how informed do you feel like that decision was consensually for you?
It was not at all. I mean, again, I think like in all cultic environments, our individuality,
Yeah.
our what made us unique was erased.
Yeah.
So our job, our literal job was to destroy our egos. I mean, there was a lot of that language, and we were servants and sometimes called slaves to God. And the guru was the person who we practiced that with. So there's a lot of Sufi-ish modified through a white guy from Peoria because he was a white guy from Peoria, the guru. Um, uh, it's true. And if you don't know Peoria, it's sort of like, I don't know, name the Australian town that's like the nothing town that's everyone points to when they want to show a nothing town. Um, so, so yeah, so this, how do I feel about that? I feel very sad about it now. Uh, I wouldn't say regretful because again,
Mm,
um, I mean, the main beautiful thing that came out of that is that I have a 23-year-old daughter.
yeah.
And of course I wouldn't trade her for anything, but it was sad and no, we were not informed
Mm,
and nobody said to me, dude, you're gay, except for my friend who brought me in 3 years before was like, dude, what the hell? And he bailed on the whole enterprise and he confronted the guru and was like, what are you doing to my friends?
yeah.
And he had it, and I didn't talk to him for 20 years, but no, I did not doubt. I believed that this was the right thing. And
Yeah.
people who I know who have been closeted in religious environments, that we do this thing in our brains where we decide that we are being strong and we are committing ourselves to the path, to God, to whatever by by committing to our faith over our body's
Mm,
lusty, you know, desires.
You're denying the carnal flesh and you're
Exactly.
you're focusing on the divine and everything
Exactly.
that is above and better and beyond yourself in
Yes.
the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Were you then praised by other people for making that choice and that decision as well?
Yes.
Yeah.
But not again, not directly, not like, yay, you're not gay anymore, because we were all sort of like liberal
Mm,
Westerners, right? So there wasn't this like, yay, Jesus hates gays. Like there wasn't any of
yeah.
that. It was yes, you've committed to the path. And then through the years, the guru would in different ways praise me for my strength.
Mm,
So he would, and of course, that's all that ever mattered was getting crumbs from him.
yeah.
Um, and he would even compare me to my friend who left, or he would sort of in different ways, subtle ways, kind of take me aside and go like, you're so strong. Like when he did praise me, I felt like I had made that right decision,
Mm,
you know. And of course, I feel bad for the woman that I married because, whoa, she was not not satisfied in our marriage.
oh, yeah.
Oh my God. I mean, what we went through for so long, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're talking about, when he would speak directly to you and, give you this subtle praise and things like that. What was it like for you whilst you were in it when you were in his presence? Like, how did that make you feel? Because a lot of what we're talking about is the emotive experience defies the logic. That, like you said at the beginning, you went in there and you were like, this is weird, but I felt something. And that emotive experience often defies the logic. So, how did that feel?
This is okay. This is a great segue to performance studies because now I'm in performance studies and I'm writing this dissertation and I'm like I'm trying to explain what it's like to be in that environment because you can't document it and you
Yeah.
can't you can't do a post exit survey that gets to it.
Mm,
Like sitting in that room and how complicated all the signals are and the communications and the way that people look at him and the way that I'm trying to learn to do it right. And um God, I mean, it was terrifying and amazing. And I learned rather quickly to be, I mean, within a year or two, he would rather intensely admonish me in different ways. I hate that word admonish, like verbally abuse me or different ways. Like I don't know, he knew he had me, so I became just like anybody. It was being in his presence was totally almost always terrifying. Now, I didn't admit that to myself, I just was on edge. And I'll tell you one story. Um, and God, as I'm trying to write about this and even tell about it, like there's no way to get at the levels of tension. Like you can't. This is why I think it's so funny when people are sort of like, there's no coercion, or I read these scholars who are like, well, what's brainwashing? Or like, these people from the outside. And it's like, well, that's because you weren't brainwashed. Like the
mhm,
Eileen, I don't know if you know these names, but like the Eileen Barkers of the world saying like, there's no evidence for brainwashing. And I'm like, well, that's because you weren't fucking brainwashed. If you were
mhm,
brainwashed, you know what that feels like. So there was a moment where there was a one of our Sufi sort of universalist tendencies was to practice lots of different holidays. So we were Muslims, but at the same time, most of us came from Christian environments. So we would celebrate Christmas.
mm,
And in our main house, we set up a big Christmas tree, and we were going to have gifts, and we made this big dinner. And Murshid, who was the teacher, we called him Murshid, which means guide or teacher in Arabic. He was coming. And I'm just assuming that everyone listening to this can just feel, okay, so we're getting ready for the guest. This was sort
yeah.
of the phrase. We're sweeping and you're cleaning and you're getting ready for the powerful guy to come, right? And it was terrifying. Like like the level of uh fear and perfectionism in the air, right? And but sort of devotion mixed in with it. And he shows up and he says, and he looks around, and it's December, Midwest America, so it's like, snow boots and stuff. And he comes in and he says, has anyone called the prayer? And in Islam, you call the prayer 5 times a day, and then you do collective prayer. And someone said, "Oh, no, nobody's done it yet." And he said, "Oh, so you're not ready?" And so he gets his boots on, gets his coat on, and leaves.
Oh,
Now, for anyone who knows this relationship, almost nothing is worse than like somehow we're being collectively scolded in
yeah.
this very dramatic way. And it was horrific. So um, he left, and then suddenly everyone knows he left, Murshid left. What do we do? Um, a bunch of us decided he was going to drive 15 miles back south to the farmhouse that I told about earlier. And we decided we were going to pile into cars and go down there, and it's nighttime. So we get into like 5, 6 different cars, and we decide we're going to go and beg for forgiveness, right? So we drive half an hour south. It's dark. We knock on the door, and the wife who I mentioned before, who was so loving with me, she answers the door and she's like, "Yeah, what?" And we said we want to talk to Murshid. We want to apologize. And she goes to the other room, comes back and says, "Okay, you can come in." So about, I don't know, 25 of us maybe, we single file go into this little living room, and he's there, and this was maybe 2002 or something, and he is maybe even earlier. He's organizing his CDs with his back to us, and we're all there on our knees on the floor, and he's ignoring us. And finally, some brave soul says something like, "Murshid, salam alaikum," which means peace be upon you. Someone says something like, "I am so sorry we were not present. We were not ready for the guest. And I'm so sorry. All I can say is that I will strive to be better." Somebody says something like that. And then one by one, and he never turns around. One by one, people ask for him for forgiveness. And I remember in my brain at this point, early, kind of still early in the process, I remember saying, inside my mind thinking, being aware that I felt scared
Mm,
and that I wasn't supposed to feel scared. I was supposed to only feel devotion and love. So this is what when it came my turn to speak, this is what I said. I said, "Murshid, I'm so sorry. I want to confess something. I noticed that when you were coming up the walk, I felt scared."
mm.
And he suddenly turned to me. He suddenly turned and he goes, "Are you going to make this about yourself right now? Fuck you."
Oh,
That's what he said to me, and then turned back around. And it was those moments, so, so, 10 out of 10 fraught with shame and fear, that I learned in that moment, I cannot tell the truth.
mm,
I cannot, even if it means I'm nervous or I'm scared or I feel anxious or like even, and to me, that was still at that point part of the process of a spiritual path, is like, this is scary or this is,
mm,
and then I realized, no, I cannot speak to that. And then, of course, and then, in that environment, nobody comes to your aid. Like nobody could turn to me and say, like, "Are you okay?" Like, no, they are only focused on him
yeah.
and getting their own approval and validation from him. And I have never forgotten, and I don't think my muscles have ever forgotten how that it was like an it was like lightning
Mm.
through me. And I stayed with him for, 20 more years after that, with that feeling always that was always possible
Mm.
to be, you know, destroyed like that publicly when I was just sharing like something that I thought would be helpful, you
Yeah.
know? And I don't
It's
remember what your question was, but that
Oh,
was
it's
the story.
fine. It's all right. Most of the time I forget the question once it's out of my mouth. Um, but like that feeling of fear and fear, I think even in like the evangelical Christian world is a weird word because it's used to both incite terror and devotion. And so it
Yes.
comes with that duality
Yes.
of tone to it. Was that
Yep.
fear something that stayed um like consciously present for you, or did you completely disconnect and dissociate from that as you stayed for the next 20 years?
Well, I would say that it was embedded in me
Mm,
that I was under threat. So I behaved under as if I were always under threat, which I was.
mm,
Um, but I didn't consciously think I was scared.
mm,
I mean, and if I did, I judged it, because I was supposed to seek a devotional, intimate relationship. So
yeah,
I would avoid him, especially later, I would avoid him. And I didn't think, oh, I'm scared of him. And that's maybe
yeah,
not the greatest, but like it was not conscious because it was always that pressure of like, I'm supposed to want to seek his guidance.
yeah,
So I did whenever I could, but as the years grow on, it was more like checking the box. It was like, okay, I did that. Oh, good. Like now I can avoid him for another month or,
yeah,
but going to him and asking, you know, for advice or guidance or something it became less and less
mm,
possible
yeah.
um, over time. And forgive me, I just spent some time talking to Claire McIver.
Oh, we love
Yeah.
Claire.
Yeah. And I'm learning a lot about what you're doing over there. And one of the things I told her about was being a musician
Mm,
and and I would say one of the main things that happened in our group was that he discovered that I played the drums.
mm,
And when he discovered that, he went out and bought me a drum set. And then we had a band.
yeah.
And that band actually had three different European tours. Like it became something that we had, I would say, some adventures with.
Yeah.
But the main thing was that to describe that sort of sums up my relationship with this guru was that I have a lot of musical training and I have a really good ear. So I started on piano, became a drummer, but I wrote songs for him. And I had been a songwriter before and so at some point I want to put this onto a stage or want to try to describe this relationship because I'm the drummer. I hear when things are out of key because I have a really good ear. I know when things are out of tempo and um and I write songs for him.
Mm,
He is a guitar player who's shitty. He is a shitty guitar player and he can't hear when things are out of tune or out of key and
mm,
he is not good at rhythm. Now, the relationship is such that I have to follow everything he does.
mm,
And when something is not the way he wants it, it's my fault. And I had that heaped on me. So there were many, many hours compounded, which stored in my body somehow, but I spent hours and hours and hours trying to convince myself that he was right about everything as
mm,
I'm sitting behind the drums. I'm sitting behind the drums. I'm trying to follow him. I will be blamed for everything that goes wrong. If he changes key, if he changes tempo, I have to follow him. And then um and then turn around and be blamed for it. And that was actually part of that was a little bit of a pride thing for me because I was able to sort of perform for the whole community what I was able to take and endure. So that was sort of another way for me to get close to him. I'm like, I'm his drummer. Like, what's more intimate than that, right? And then I have, um, let's just say I have a lot of stories about how and when I wrote songs for him, they became his. So he could change them, he could make them worse, he could change the words, and because they were gifts to him.
Mm.
So I have a lot of, but these moments where I'm literally in my brain telling myself that his way must be better,
Yeah.
even though I know that we're out of tune or so that dissonance and how kind of concentrated it was around music. Oh my God. Anyway, that shit's fucked up.
And it's like music is such an emotive experience
Uh-huh.
as well, which is why, I've had many a conversation for people who, were worship leaders and things like that in their church spaces and high control groups and all of that sort of thing, because
Mhm.
music, is at the core of who we are. It's inherently
Uh-huh.
sensory. It's just such a powerful space to heal, but also it's a really powerful space if it's in the hands of someone who is manipulative and can be
Mhm.
used as a weapon of control.
Uh-huh.
And so, what sounds like a very simple thing on the surface becomes very complicated and control based. And
Mhm.
another example of losing yourself
Mhm.
for someone else.
Mhm.
Um, At what point, and I am asking this question because I think a lot of people think that, someone who leaves a cult, something has happened. Something being this one event that has happened that like got them out. But more often than not, like hundreds of things happen
Right, right,
to build this enormous snowball that pushes someone out. But at what point did you consciously become aware of, oh, fuck, this place is not safe? Like, I can't be here.
right.
And what were you
Um,
becoming aware of in that moment?
well, over the last few years, I had sort of wrestled myself some sense of agency in different ways. First of all, we moved out of this communal housing and to live with my mother, who had moved here, and um, and I got back on social media around 2019, which actually enabled me to connect with some people from my previous life, it turned out to be important. And I was doing some acting, and I just sort of found little spaces for myself. But there was actually a super important thing that made it all happen, which was COVID, and
Mm,
which was lockdown. So it was I really honestly don't know if would have gotten out if I hadn't been in lockdown. So suddenly we're in lockdown, and everything that I did every day was canceled because I
mm,
was there every day, and I was the manager of the bakery, and I was our food coordinator. Like I worked 16 hours a day for the community, and so suddenly we're in lockdown,
yeah.
and there was this period of a week or two or three, and the way that I can describe it now is the first step was admitting that I felt relieved
Mm,
because I wasn't supposed to feel relief. I was supposed to feel a longing for my community. But something in there was like, wait, I have to, I think I'm happy that I don't have to go. Like this, I'm happy. And that was a very hard thing to admit.
yeah, I was about to say, like, was that immediately followed by guilt and shame that you felt happy about that?
Yeah, it was like terrible.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to think that. But then there was, I mean, I, it just, it came rather quickly to me.
Mm,
Um, and, and I sat with my wife at the time, and I said something to her like, what? And this was such a scary thing to say. I said, what would you think about us backing off of our community life a little bit? And
Mm,
she was like, yes. She was totally like ready. And that's again a complicated story, but um anyway, over the next few weeks, I'm extremely resourceful, which is why Dean is what I call him now because his name is Dean. Um, he created a monster because I am such a researcher and I'm such a so within not very long, I had a stack of books and I started watching the movies and I was like, shit, this is
mm,
a cult.
yeah.
And and then I wrote a little thing about it and put it on Medium and I mean all these things happened that and then I started making YouTube videos and my family got really upset because I was like, this is a cult and they were it was it was a little farther for them, like it was longer
Mm,
of a process for them. I mean, and of course, just because I was talking about this stuff doesn't mean that I was healing. I mean, I mean, COVID was hard anyway, but I was like hardly mobile. I was, barely functional. I was reading a book and sleeping for it. It was horrific. I mean, this first period of coming out was terrible, and then I do want to tell the story because it's really kind of beautiful. I think this. I mean, at some point, maybe it wasn't long, like maybe June of 20, or maybe in May. My wife says, like, what's going on with our relationship? And I remember sitting there, and it may have been 2 minutes, but it felt like 15 minutes in my brain. And I remember going like, I remember it sort of reloading my brain, going like, I'm gay. Like, how did this? I mean, I had been so enculturated to put that into some little fingernail and just save it. Like, and we both knew, but I said it, and I'm like, here I am coming out again, you
yeah.
know. And, and we went through a divorce while in lockdown together. It was grueling. But here's the sweet story, which I just love to tell. So so just because it gives hope and
Yeah.
and I think a lot of cult recovery is really just about getting your body back, So I mean, what else is there? We just have our bodies, but then you realize, oh, it's not the demonic hellscape or whatever. So there was this really cute man, and this was not conscious at all. This cute man that I'd known in town for 20 years, and he was posting on Facebook these. This is so cute. I can see your smile. It's just this whole story is so cute. He 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 was retired from the theater department here at the university, and he would post his hikes. Every day he would post him like hiking in there's beautiful woods and forests around here. And he never posted his picture of himself ever. And this man, I'd interacted with him at several points over 20 years, sort of theater related, whatever. And I just always thought he was so cute. And I didn't admit this to myself. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm gonna go pursue this cute guy. That was not conscious. It was more like, help. Like, I just left a cult. We're in lockdown. And I wrote to him on Messenger and I was like, hey, can I come on one of your hikes? Because I'm like, I'm losing my mind like we all were, right? And and then I downloaded because cult survivor, too much information. I was like, I just got out of this cult. And it's a small town, so he knows about the Sufis and everyone does. So I went on this hike with him. And after we hiked, I took my I took my phone out and I texted him, by the way, I've had a crush on you for a long time. And like I'm still married. The whole thing was such a mess, right? And and so over a period of weeks, my family, my wife, we all like and my daughter who was 17 or she was 18 at the time, she even said to me, she goes, you're dating him. And I'm like, no, I'm not. Oh, yes, I am. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, and he was, so I mean, a lot of this was arduous with my relationship ending, but this is the sweet part is that um, he and I would take these hikes, and we were very careful of the social distance.
Mm.
We're law-abiding citizens. So we would go to his house, which was in the next to the woods, and sit on his porch and touch feet.
Mm.
And let me tell you what that did to me, Sam. Like I remember the feeling of total joy. Like like the feeling of like this is what my body wants, right?
Yeah,
Like the feeling of how natural and joyful and how just having the blood rush through my body and how wonderful that felt. And then at the same time, the complete rage of having that stolen from me.
yeah.
So when I had those moments with my partner, who I'm still with, by the way, we're getting married next year. He
Oh, the
it's been great.
sweetest story.
It's so sweet. And he's just cute, and we're just absolutely in love.
Oh,
Okay, so but I was like, at that point, I realized I was so full of rage, and I just was like, fuck you
yeah,
for forever tricking me that this was not that I was not deserving of this moment. Like you were such a so whatever I thought was still good in the community, I was like, you are a lying piece of shit.
yeah.
To and any spiritual leader is who keeps you from that experience of
Mm.
being aligned with our body's desires. You know, it's like that was a deep moment for the good and for the hardness of digesting the rage and the grief, you
Yeah.
know?
There is always, I feel like, such a duality of emotions for a really long
Yes.
time. Every good
Yeah.
emotion comes with a tinge of something else, whether it be anger, rage, grief, guilt, sadness. It comes with something because
Yes.
often it just reminds you of how long it has been since you have genuinely been able to feel and been allowed weird like it's crazy to even put the word permission or allowed
Yeah.
in that sentence to feel joy and excitement and
Yeah.
relief and all of those emotions.
Yeah. And all the times, and I know that you experience this, all the times you realize that normal people are fine. You're just
Yeah.
like, oh my God, you're so chaotic and I love you. You know, like
Yeah.
or just like people being normal people. You're like, I was lied to about them being whatever judgment I had. And then you're like, people are so lovely. I mean, there's
Yeah.
obviously not a lot of not lovely people, but
Yeah.
people are doing their best
Yeah.
in general, and they're lovely and they're broken, and that's fine, you know?
Yeah. How do you view him now? How do you look back and view who he was, who he is?
Just as a con artist, and I've learned to, and you know, completely unsurprisingly, I've learned that he had abusive sexual relationships with the women around him, which was hidden in the group. He's a con artist. He has the same backstory that Keith Raniere has. Like he sells things, and then he found this way to sell this, and he found a way to gather women around him to do whatever he wanted with them, and to get lots of people to do all of his work for him and to give him their money. And it's just absolutely typical in that sense. And then the Sufism part just sort of cloaked it in this mysterious, you know, sort of xenophobic thing fraught with cultural appropriation that spellbound a lot of you know, kind of guilt-ridden middle-class US American white people to follow him because we didn't know any better. And I mean, it's complicated, but yeah, he is a con artist, and that's the best way to sum that up.
Mm. How do you feel about that woman that way back who like saw who you were and what you needed, who probably was a victim turned perpetrator?
Yeah. Yeah, she is the first victim. She is spectacularly good at her role, and she's still here in town doing this. Like she's still beautiful and sort of manifesting and shows up at different places. And
Yeah.
they've taken a big hit from my public
Mm.
whistleblowing because I have been public. I was the first person to be so. And but they reinvent themselves. You know, they sort of do the Pee Wee Herman thing of like, I meant to do that. Like they're just, here we are. It's great. Everything's great.
Yeah.
Everything's great. You know, so they will never stop doing that. And I think part of the healing process for me recently has been kind of like, oh, I may never see him come down.
Mm.
So let me very gradually, as I'm able to sort of shift my attention towards things that I can build. And can I talk about the show now?
Yes,
Okay,
please.
that this leads to it. Because the whole reason I'm talking to you, Sam, is because I created performance art, and it was sort of, I mean, it's a long story to tell the whole thing, but
Mm.
let's just say that I thought I was going to learn to kind of write pop songs again, or little. I thought I was going to write. I wanted my music back,
Mm.
and I kept trying, and then I would end up making like noise, and like I wanted to break things, and I wanted to like I wanted to tell the story, but I couldn't do it in words.
Yeah.
So I developed this thing, and I didn't believe me, I did not know I was going to perform it in Melbourne. So I created this thing, and it was like this. I it's an hour long, and it's a video audio thing that's a lot of noise. And I wanted to tell the story of being in a cult, but I wanted to do it with movement, and it's not the stories. So it's this kind of cacophonous rhythmic thing. And what happens is 1 minute of the show is 1 year of my life. And so from minute 29 to minute 53 of this performance, I get into this very, very hard to watch and hard to do sort of rhythm, which echoes the chanting that we used to do in the morning. And it's very cathartic and kind of ritualistic. And the people who came to see me perform this, it's called Cult Piece, which is sort of a Yoko Ono reference, but um, it's the people who came to saw it were like, that was so long and difficult and hard to watch. And I'm like, well, yes, that was why I did that because
Point.
yeah, like that's the point is like it went on and on and on and never changed. And so I did this show and I did it 3 times and I really liked how it felt because I didn't want to be a pompous performance artist. So like I told like I have a little introduction before and I have a talk after where I'm like, this is what I'm doing. Like it's not trying to be, if you don't get it, it's fine. Like I'm not trying to be pretentious and weird. I'm trying to tell the story and so I tried to be really like transparent about the whole thing. And then I got this opportunity. There was a conference that came across in my inbox, and it's called critical autoethnography, and it's sort of academic, but it's sort of about people in academia telling stories about their lives, and it was in Melbourne, and I'm like, I don't really, wow, okay, so I just threw an application in, not thinking that this, and they accepted it. And I went to my partner and I was like, oh, we could never do this, right? And he's like, I don't know. Why don't we look into it? And it's like, okay, wow. I have to get 3 weeks off in this middle of semester, but then things kept falling into place. He and I were going to just be tourists
Mm.
because going to Australia as tourists is pretty freaking cool. Like
Yeah.
I've never been there and I want to go and meet you people. So then I thought, well, God, I want to, this is an academic conference. It's closed off. I would like to share this with other cult survivors of different kinds. So I start reaching out to people on Facebook and I mean, I know Yanya Lalich and these different people, so I kind of like try to network. And then I'm looking at venues in Melbourne, and I found out that the Fringe Festival is going on at the same time. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, yikes. That's terrifying. Yeah. So I did the application and you have to find your own venue. It seemed impossible because I'm like, I don't know what to do. So I sent a clip and some things about my show to like 10 different venues. And the Motley Bauhaus called me and said, your show looks really cool." And we had a back and forth, and they're like, "We'd like to book you for 7 nights." And I go, "What? Are you out of your mind? Fucking crazy." And forgive me, I shouldn't use crazy. Anyway, wild. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
And so so I'm doing it, and I made posters, and then the reason that we're talking is because I'm reaching out. I reached out to people, sort of like, hey, can I let people know that I'm going to be here doing this, and then I'd like for it to benefit people who I really am so uncomfortable with self-promotion. So like, it would be cool if I got to perform this all over. I don't know, but more than really, honestly, truly, sincerely, more than anything, I'd like for people to come and see what I did because I think you'll relate to it. And I think that it might provide openings for some people creatively. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, like I found this way of telling the story without telling it. And I found and I'm really, and it's healing for me. Like it's been super, super healing for me. I'm preparing myself emotionally for like, if there's nobody there, I'm just going to give it my all anyway, because it's for me. It's
Yeah.
for me. It's like this is what we do when we get out of these environments is like I get to have agency, you know? I
Yeah.
get to and especially musically, it's like I get to make these dissonant notes if I want to. Like
Mm.
fuck you. Like don't tell me what I can sound like. I can sound like a mess if I want to.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, what it has been like for you as a healing modality almost, because it's not just reclaiming, the creative parts of you that were, warped and manipulated as part of the group, but just reclaiming you as yourself and as, all of the now different parts of you in a space where sometimes words are hard to quantify and
Yeah.
we don't always have language to describe an experience. And so, how has it been? Like, what's the impact been for you personally creating this?
Well, first of all, I was supported. I found myself in this department at the university of people who were so supportive of me, and I've been given really great encouragement. But I think, I think it's helped me start to trust myself again because by the time I left the cult, I had really been convinced that I was just damaged
Yeah.
and selfish and all the things that I believed about myself. And what's happened with this show, and actually, I have to say, my interactions with people at the Melbourne Fringe have been so supportive and so thoughtful. And this connects with the work that Claire is doing. The
Mm,
work that's going on, whatever is happening in Victoria is some of the
yeah.
most, maybe the most progressively thought out.
Mm,
Like I just read their document that they created. It is astounding.
yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
it's astounding.
It's wildly good. Yeah.
It is
Yeah.
astonishing that it exists. And so it's inspiring because well, okay, just let me just say that what has come out of my experience with Melbourne is that one of the things that happened is that they work really hard on accessibility.
Mm,
So there's a person who connects with every single performer and asks them about different possibilities for making their show accessible.
yeah.
And I ticked every box. Like, yes, I want people who can't see in my show. Yes, I want to do low sensory shows. Yes, I want like there were these things I'd never heard of. Like, oh, people can come in and like touch what I'm doing, or people can we can have masks encouraged shows. Like I just realized it helped me to realize that I want this performance to be completely accessible, even if that means I have to change what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And and I didn't know that that was unusual. So when I had a Zoom session with this woman, Millie, she said, "God, you're so generous with your work." And I'm like, "Wait, I am?"
Mm,
Because I thought that I was a selfish, self-centered asshole
yeah.
for 23 years. And you're telling me that I'm not? Like, can I trust myself that I really am in this? That I want people to get up and leave in the middle if they need to. I
Mm,
want people to and I realize that a lot of performers they sort of want to keep things secret and mysterious. And it's like, no, I will tell you everything that's happening. I will give you the video beforehand. It's on YouTube. Like I want everyone to know what they need to know in order to feel safe and comfortable in this room.
Yeah.
And she responded to me like, wow, that's cool. And I go, oh, it is? And so to me, to answer your question, like reclaiming that sense of myself, which is sincere and
Yeah.
open, which was destroyed. And so this process and bringing it to people and then talking to you and talking to Claire and connecting with survivors doing really important work all over the world and not trying to, I don't know, promote my book or whatever. Like there's a lot of that in the world of sort of like, I don't know, like I want to have sincere, survivor-centered, open, supportive, consent-oriented. I want to do that with people.
Yeah.
And that is healing,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm. Absolutely. I mean, and also as you're talking, the people who have had their consent and safety taken away
Mhm.
typically understand the value of giving consent and safety back to other people,
Yes.
especially when engaging with emotive content, right?
Mhm.
Like it's content that is it's not logical, it's not cognitive, it's emotive, it lives in
Mhm.
you. And so it's where it's going to speak to them. So consent is and safety is such a key part of that. It's unsurprising to me that that would be, you know, important to you as somebody who had had those things taken away from you.
And that
Um,
is for people.
so
Yes.
how do you see, and this is a question that I ask most people on the podcast because I think I get the most varied answers with this question, but how do you see or what's your relationship with spirituality now?
That's one of the questions that um, came up when I listened to your podcast. I've forgotten his name,
Oh,
Joel.
Joel, yes.
So Joel, if
Yeah.
you listen to this, I want you to know that I imbibe that whole thing. Okay, so this is what was interesting. You asked him, and forgive me, I'm paraphrasing, but towards the end you asked something like, I mean, I think it was the same question. Maybe it was. And I went to seminary. I was Muslim. I was I don't know, a believer or a practitioner or whatever for all these years. And he said something like, again, Joel, forgive me for paraphrasing, but something about how being connected to a long kind of narrative arc that transcends time and meaning as Jesus does, uh, sort of feeling connected to that. I think he said something like is really cool or something like he said this is important to him and like he enjoys that, right? And so I remember I listened to that moment and I thought, you know what? I I just want to say it's also kind of cool to not have that.
Yes, this is why I love this question because I get the most varied answers.
Right.
Yeah.
Because like I don't, and I said that to my partner today. Like I actually described before I came on, we were sitting for dinner and I just said, I described this moment. And he said, "What do you think of the universe?" And I was like, "I think it's mysterious and wild, and I think that when I die, it's all over." And I think that to me, it means that there is nothing in any way superior in my belief system about the human species or any kind of mythological anything. It's sort of like, we don't understand what dolphins say to each other. We don't understand how roots root. We don't, and we think ourselves so important. And I feel free from that need to feel connected to a thing,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And that is, for me, I don't ever want to imply that someone should let go of their need for that and that somehow it's more liberating. That is not, but for me, not having that is like mysteriously cool and impossible to answer. It's like, here we are. And I'm very sort of morose in the sense of like, I believe that here in a second I'll be facing my death. It'll be like when that moment comes, I'll be like, wow, it happened so fast.
Yeah.
Time is sort of meaningless, and I don't think that there needs to be a creator being. And I think that, and I don't think I have a purpose or a lesson to learn. But I think I want to be really nice to people because I like it and I like people and I want to help.
Yeah.
And I hope that in the next for the rest of my life I can help people and my through my own efforts help people find their own consent and their own limits and what they need to say before they go.
Yeah.
And maybe we can, fight fascism and dogma and
Mm.
coercion and manipulation is and so yeah,
Yeah.
believe anything.
That is a far more eloquent way to answer. I had somebody on another podcast ask me about how I view spirituality, and I'm like, most days I have no fucking idea, and at the same time, I also don't really care that I don't know.
Exactly.
And so
Exactly. I don't
your
care.
answer is far more beautiful and
No.
eloquent than mine is in usually in that space. Um, but I mean, the other like more very real reason I like to ask this question is because I like listeners to realize that wherever they land is okay. If they
Yeah.
still want to
Yeah.
stay where they have been planted or where they have chosen for themselves with whatever faith origin it is or spirituality space it is, that's okay. And if you want to burn it all down and never go back, that's also okay. And
Yes.
everything in between. Um,
Yes.
and so, I think that's the sort of like the non-sarcastic, cynical answer as to why I like to ask
Yes.
that question. But it is just allowing, you sort of said you don't want anybody to feel like they need to disconnect from that. And I think that, the freedom to land wherever you choose to land
Hmm.
is the beauty in that.
Yeah.
So
We get to choose.
yeah, yeah, choice is a pretty nice, powerful thing. Hey.
It is really the most
Yeah,
important thing. Isn't
absolutely.
it? Is anything more important than autonomy? I don't know.
Yeah. I like to finish these episodes with some encouragement for people listening, and I usually direct it more so to the person that I'm speaking to. And so, what would you say to somebody who has either chosen to leave a cult or who has just been potentially kicked out, but they have just left the space that they've spent decades or years in? What would you say to them?
Uh, okay. One of the early, one of a friend of mine who's a therapist, one of the first things he said to me is he goes, "You're going to do this wrong." And that means that no matter how you go about it, it's gonna be messy. You're gonna do things you didn't want to do. It's just really hard work. So some people choose to hide for 10 years. Some people get right onto a podcast and blast their group.
Yeah.
There is not a right thing. So do what you need to do to make yourself the most comfortable
Mm.
because your safety and autonomy is the most important thing.
Yeah.
So there is not, in other words, doing it, you're going to do it wrong means there's not a right way to do it.
Mm. Which means failure doesn't come into it.
Yes.
Yeah,
There's no wrong way to do it. And it's brutal and it takes a while.
yeah, I love that. Thank you for joining me, and I will have everything about the Fringe Festival in my show notes for my Melbourne listeners. And I will pop it all over social media as well and on our collective page as well. But if you are in Melbourne or around Melbourne, please get there because I mean, and also there is a lot of conversation about cults and fringe groups with the Victorian Inquiry and all of that sort of thing. And so I think um, it'll just be really powerful for people to engage in your content, I think. So all of the links and stuff will be in the show notes for ease of access. But
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for joining me.
And now it's so funny. As a typical cult survivor, now I feel like all the shame and guilt that I made that all about myself,
Oh
even
my
though I wasn't
goodness,
talking
no.
about myself. Isn't that funny? Now I have to go like fan myself. Yeah, okay. Wait, I just talked about myself too much.
No, I could have kept talking and kept asking questions.
Okay. All right.
So
Thank
I
you.
love that. But thank you so much for not just joining me, but for sharing so openly and vulnerably about a space that I think is just not talked about enough and talking about it in a really, um, just a really beautiful, not, there's anger there, but it's not bitter, cynical rage that just people can't engage with. And so I think the way we talk about this matters. And so I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sam. I really appreciate this space. Thank you.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Surface. I hope you found today's conversation as insightful and inspiring as I did. If you enjoyed the episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with others who might benefit from these stories. Stay connected with us on social media for updates and more content. I love connecting with all of you. Remember, no matter where you are in your journey, you're not alone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep moving forward. Take care.